BecomingMeTV, Emily Cummins here. We're in a series called From a Guy's Perspective, literally answering questions from a guy's perspective. Now, have you ever wondered or asked yourself the question, can a guy and a girl be just friends? Just friends? Well, today we're going to get a guy's perspective on that. So grab your cup of coffee and join me as my friend Taylor Snodgrass unpacks this question.
Hey y'all, my name is Taylor. I am super excited to be sharing with you guys today and very honored that Emily asked me to be a part of this series that Becoming is doing. I live in Nashville with my wife Heather. We've been married for about a year and a half. We actually got to do a video blog for Becoming in February, I think it was, where we just talked about what we learned from our first year of dating, from our first year of being married. So not my first time in the Becoming world, but first time solo, so fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes. But today, as we're just continuing in this series on Becoming, hearing from guys on our perspectives on all kinds of stuff, I'm going to share today just a little bit of my thoughts on whether guy and girl can be just friends. Emily sent out a whole list of different topics and some stuff that she just wanted to dive into. And hear from a guy's perspective, and one of those was, can a guy and a girl be just friends? And I kind of snatched that up and said I'd love to talk about that because growing up I've always had close and great relationships with girls, just as friends with kind of no strings attached, and it's just been something that I never really kind of thought anything of until I started to get into some different circles where people were questioning that, and I never thought anything of it when I was younger and growing up, and people would always say oh, is there anything on? I'm like, no, we're just friends. It's not a thing, but it's a topic that I definitely think that should be we should dive into together. So yeah, the simple answer is yes. I said that I've had a lot of great friends over the years. And still today that are girls that there's no strings attached. There's nothing beneath the surface. There's no other thing. It's just that we're just great friends. I think for me, just a little bit of my story, I think a lot of that, I grew up as an only child, so I never had brothers and sisters, but my mom's family all lived within about 30 minutes of each other. So growing up, I was really close with my cousins. Especially I have a cousin who is about 3 or 4 years older than me, and then a cousin who is a year younger than me, both of them girls. So I was age-wise, just right in the middle of them. But we grew up very close. We would see each other, every weekend when we were little. In the summers, we would, go to the amusement park together and go to the beach together. And we were just, we were really close, really great friends, and still are to this day. Just really great friends. So it was just not even a question for me. I think just growing up and as I interact with guys and I interact with girls, it was just, we're just friends. It's just like hanging out with Jamie and Kelly. Those are my cousins, Jamie and Kelly. So I never really thought anything of it, and I think that's kind of what led to that, no strings attached ability to have great girl friends that are just friends. And that's continued for me. I think as I, started to get into those relationships and into those friendships that weren't with my cousins, I think that one of the things that was important is as I started to date, as I started to now am married, there's a certain level of upfrontness, I guess. Upfrontness, you get it. Upfrontness about kind of where the relationship is, define the relationship, if you will. But I've always been very intentional with if I'm dating someone, if now that I'm married, if I am friends with a girl, that person that I'm with needs to know them. They need to know kind of what's going on in that friendship, in that relationship. Because for me, if I am in a romantic relationship, in now a marriage, Heather's out there. That's why I keep pointing out there. Just in that marriage, there are just a lot of ground rules. I still, one of my best friends is a girl that I went to college with, and there's never been any kind of romantic aspect to our relationship. We just have always been great friends. And Heather is still pointing. Heather, she's out there, not there, out there. Heather is great friends with her now because of that, because there's always been just a friendship aspect to it. They said, I don't want it to ever think that there's anything else to it. So Heather is going to be, close with this person. Heather's going to get to know this person. I'm not going to, force her to do things, but it was important to me that, hey, I want you to know, I want you to get to know this person because they're a friend to me, and I don't want you to ever think that it's anything else, because if you start to see us interact, it's nothing else. I also think that there are just some ground rules that you can personally put in place. I'm always one that feels a little bit weird to say out loud, here are the ground rules for our relationship. 1, you can do this. 2, you can't do this. That makes me uncomfortable. So I think for me, just some ground rules that I put in place are just have to do with time spent together, and maybe some of the things that you do and don't talk about. I don't you don't dive into the things that would just be relationship talk. You're not spending you're not spending ridiculous amounts of time together just alone, just the two of you, doing coupley things. I don't know how to super describe that, but you know what coupley things are. There's just coupley things that you probably shouldn't do if you're not a couple. And if you are doing those things, maybe you are a couple. There's always that time when there could be a friendship that turns into a relationship. I think that being aware of if that's happening on one end or the other is a huge part of whether you can be friends or not. And I'm not saying you can only just be friends or you can only just be dating. You, for example, if I were in a friendship and started to, develop feelings in the past, it needed to be an upfront conversation right then and there. Hey, this is happening on my end. If it's happening on the other end, maybe there needs to be more than a friendship there. But, other times I'm not really feeling that. I know for me, it's time to maybe step back, evaluate what are the things that we're, talking about, what are the things that we're doing, hanging out, what are the, coupley things that, might be happening that are leading me to feel this way that I can kind of cut out to say, no, that's probably not a good idea. So those are just kind of a couple ground rules and a couple safety rails that I put up for me and have put up for me in the past. And like I said, I think that it's definitely possible to have a friend that's a girl for me, or for girls to be friends with guys. I think that the biggest thing is just being careful and aware. Self-awareness is huge. Don't just be lying to yourself about, I don't have feelings for this person. I do have feelings for this person. No, I don't, because I just want to be friends. If you do, that's okay. I'm not going to get mad at you. I don't think anybody's going to be mad at you. It's just one of the things that probably needs to be upfront. You shouldn't be holding on to feelings just inside and not be sharing those with whatever the other person, whoever the other person is. Just an upfront, honest communication about that is always a great rule. And just be aware of the things that you're talking about, the things that you're doing together. If you want to keep a great friendship, you can, talk about many, many, many things. You can do many, many, many things, when you're hanging out. You can, be just a friend. But as soon as, there is the potential for something else, it's probably a good idea to talk about it. So those are my 2 tips. Be aware, and be honest with each other as you're talking. If there is anything that turns anything. And then from a married perspective, I think the most important thing is upfront, honest communication with your spouse, and that goes both ways. Like oftentimes, if I have friends that are girls, and Heather asked me, the dog is barking in the background, and Heather asked me, "Hey, what'd you and so talk about?" Here it is, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, we talked about these things, and there's, if there ever like is a text conversation. There's nothing to hide in that, and just a very open and honest dialogue with Heather is super important to me, and super important to her, that she can feel confident and not like I'm hiding anything, because there's nothing to hide. There's just there's just a friendship that happens, and that's really all there is to it. So yeah, that's kind of my tip there. And then the other thing about kind of being married for me that I think is important is that Heather is friends with any girls that I am friends with as well, because they need to know Heather. They need to know that she is great and I love her very much, and they're all the reasons that we're together, and that we're married, and that it's not that's never going to change. That any girls that I am friends with are friends with Heather, so that they can get to know her and they can be part of both of our lives, not just my life. Because when a girl, like really the only girl that should be part of just my life, is Heather. I don't need to share her with Heather because she's just Heather. But any girls that I am friends with need to be also part of Heather's life, so that she can feel safe, she can feel confident, in that I can also just be aware of myself, and be smart, about anything that is happening, anything that has the potential to happen, is just a good guardrail to put up. So those are kind of my thoughts. I hope I didn't seem too rambly, but hope that you guys got the point. I think that it is definitely possible for guys and girls to be friends. You just got to be smart about it. Just got to be aware, and just got to be honest with whoever's in your life. So thank you guys for letting me share with you today. I hope that I was able to share something that helped you out a little bit in your becoming journey, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of this series and continue to tune in with what Emily's got going on. She's a fantastic leader and writer, and I'm honored to be a part of what she's doing, and hopefully I can come back sometime if I did a good enough job. I'll see you guys soon.